Akko the Jester Chapter 1. Located in West England is a school dedicated to teaching young witches the art of magic known as Lunanova Magical Academy. The school was founded in the 15th century by the Grade 9 Old Witches, which has a history of 1600 years. Lunanova originally only accepted witches from magical families, but eventually, it also accepted witches without magical inheritance due to economic difficulties. One of the students attending in this present day is Atsuko Kaguri, or Akko for short, an excitable and optimistic 16-year-old girl from Japan. She has no magical inheritance herself but has dreamed of becoming a witch anyway after seeing her idol, Shining Chariot, perform a magic show one night when she was little. She got accepted into Lunanova years later, which, after an eventual first day, has loved since. Even if she lacked any magic and often caused trouble for herself and others, she had the strong heart and never gave up despite the frustrations she had to deal with on this particular day. She and her two friends whom she shared a room with, Lottie Jansen, a girl from Finland, and Susie Manbavaran, a girl from Southeast Asia, were walking around the town known as Glastonbury, after a busy school day aiming to buy equipment for future lessons. Lottie was a calm and kind-hearted person who could be quite timid and shy at times. She would often try to be the voice of reason when things would ever get hairy. Susie, however, was the total opposite. She was calm but also rather sarcastic a lot of the time and sometimes sadistic. She'd be indifferent in various situations that would drive others mad, showing her to be the calmest of this group. But the three of them all remained good friends despite their differences. All we need now are a few bits of stationery and we should be all done, Lottie said, seeing that Akko and Susie just wanted to be done already and have fun at last. Akko replied with a tired yawn, as boring as this has been, I suppose getting all of this done now means we have more time to do what we want. You two can do whatever around here, said Susie, but I'm heading back to our room after this. My mushrooms are calling to me. Well, that's fine. Don't stick around, if you'd rather not. What are you gonna do, Akko? Lottie asked, wondering if she should stick around with her. If Susie was leaving shortly, probably just browse a little. See what catches my attention, she replied casually, not looking so tired anymore, now that she could do what she wanted. I have some spare money left and I don't feel ready to return yet. Then I'll leave first once this is over, Susie announced. Akko was still unable to fly on a broom and thus had to ride on Lottie's whilst she flew for them. Susie wouldn't want to have to wait for Akko to be done. The more she thought about wanting to get back to potion making. You don't want to window shop with us? Akko asked, turning around to face her. I'm not so sure if I want to either, Lottie said nervously. I'd like to continue with the current chapter of Nightfall I am reading, as there's some time to do so this evening and I'm near the end of it. I'm sorry, Akko, I shouldn't have said that out loud. It's okay, she replied back with a smile. I'll be as quick as I can. Once we finish getting the rest of the stationery we need, we could always meet up at a designated spot and head back to the dorm right after. Would 15 minutes be okay? Is that enough time for you to window shop? Lottie asked with doubt. That Akko would be back on time, not a problem for me. When I have you two waiting for me on my mind, then I suppose I wouldn't mind that. But I could always wait a little longer for you, if I like. I'm just acting impatient at school. I know, that book series means a lot to you, thanks, Akko, Lottie said, still feeling somewhat rude for saying what she said. Guess I'll wait then too, Susie said with her causally dry tone. Might as well, if you plan to be quick. Thanks, guys, Akko said with a bigger smile. I know I can be a liability with not being able to fly on and broom and all, so I promise to be as quick as I can. You aren't a liability at all, Lottie said, trying to make Akko feel good about herself. Don't worry about it. I'll keep trying my best to make sure that won't ever happen. With her optimism still in check, Akko continued her walk. Others to get their final supplies before eventually splitting off. Not wanting to go against her time limit, she soon dashed on in somewhat of a hurry by power walking across the town. Having passed by the regular places around town, Akko found herself not entering one store so far, as she continued to think about what to spend her money on. Despite some of the nice things on display in store windows, nothing had yet enticed her to walk into any of them yet. Perhaps she thought it was constantly reminding herself not to take too long for the sake of her friends. Maybe I'll just buy a chocolate bar or something. I'm kind of hungry. Walking into a candy store, she browsed for anything small she could purchase for herself and the others as a way of thanking them for waiting for her. Just as she was about to pick up something, she noticed a clock on the wall in the corner of her eye. Realizing she had no watch on her to check on the time, she gasped upon realizing that the time was 2 minutes away from the meet-up time to get back to the others. Oh, she cried, dropping the chocolate bar. I better get back. Forget the chocolate. Akko darted out of the store and, without realizing it, left in the opposite direction. She walked down, thinking she was going the right way. Turning to her left and stopping by a quiet part of the street to figure out where she was, a figure covered in a purple cloak that covered the face was watching her run. Upon closer inspection of Akko, the figure smiled and called out to her. Are you lost? Asked the young-sounding female voice. Akko turned to face this cloaked person and questioned her appearance. What's up with that person? You seem to be looking back and forth there. Are you in need of any directions? Well, Akko felt somewhat nervous about talking back to someone who would hide their appearance. I can help you, if you like. There's a shortcut through this little store of mine that's you're from Luna Nova, correct? The figure asked, which got Akko's attention. You know about it? She asked curiously. Yet who doesn't around these parts? All the things I've heard about it sound really fascinating. Akko was surprised to hear anyone from around these parts praise the school. The reputation of witches from the general public was mostly negative, which always rubbed her the wrong way. She wanted to someday change that and show people just how great witches were, just like shiny chariots. Oh, it is, Akko said, raising her voice with an injection of enthusiasm. Becoming a witch is something I've dreamed of ever since I saw Shiny Chariot's show, I want to do my best and make everyone happy no matter how much I struggle with not having a magical background. If I believe hard enough, I'll get there. Like Shiny Chariot said, a believing heart is your magic. That's a good goal to have, the hooded lady agreed. You say that you lack any magical background. Yes. Well, yet I do, she said, trying not to get too down about it. I struggle a lot in class to get any magic right, yet you still wanted to join Luna Nova anyway, the figure asked, growing more fascinated with this girl. Of course I did. So what, if I struggle with magic? That won't stop me from making my dream come true. I admire that the figure smiled under her hood. Always good to have a positive outlook. What's your name? Etsuko Kaguri, she replied in a friendly manner, but you can just call me Akko. A pleasure to meet you, Akko. If you don't mind me asking, Akko said, wanting to address something. Since the conversation started, is there a reason you wear a cloak? Oh, this, the figure said, it's just that I feel more comfortable with it. It was passed down in the family and I always keep it with me. I see, Akko replied, who was now starting to feel a bit more comfortable around her. So can you pull off any magic spells effectively yet? Asked the cloaked figure. It's okay if you can't, considering your background. Well, I'm working on one really hard every day, which is the transformation spell, Akko explained, thinking back on all her training sessions at night. My magical astrology teacher, Ursula Callistus. Out with it. She's super with it. Helping me out with it. She's super nice and supportive of me. This immediately caught the cloaked figure's attention, as Akko continued to talk about the kind of animals she could turn herself into so far. She waited for Akko to finish talking and quickly changed the subject. May I show you something before you go? The figure asked, looking towards a quiet little store that looked to have seen better days. I think I may have something to help you. Something to help me? Wait, she thought about everything she had explained earlier and something came to mind. Follow me, the figure said, walking on ahead. Akko had long forgotten about getting back to the others at this point, as she simply had to see what this person was talking about. As she followed her inside, all that echoed in her mind was, is she able to help me with my magic? The inside of the store looked far more run down than the outside. The shelves had practically nothing on them rather than a few worn-out books and a shocking amount of dust. A table with a cashier was placed near the door leading to the stock room. Nothing else was to be seen, which gave Akko a somewhat sad impression of the place. This store seems empty, the cloaked lady asked. Well, yes, it's not had anything in a long time, yet you still come in here. It's special to me. It may get lonely here sometimes and nobody ever comes in, but it feels homey, you know? I see. So what was this thing you wanted to show me? She asked, cutting to the chase. It's just under here, the hooded figure said, arriving at the front desk and opening up the drawer on the right side. Akko stood by the customer side of the cashier and watched as the figure brought out what looked to be a red and yellow colored drink. It was a rather fancy-looking item that looked like it could go for a lot of cash. If so, this akko, the hooded figure said with a confident tone, this will bring you good luck. A good luck ring? Akko questioned, now thinking this was one of those typical items people would sell that didn't really do anything. One to help those such as yourself. This is just what you need to give you the luck. You've always deserved the luck. I've always deserved. Echoes of the countless times Akko had failed in class, been the cause of trouble in classes, being brought down by one of the school's best students, Diana Cavendish. All of those feelings came piling up. She'd always tell herself to never give up despite the hurdles in her life. But right now that wasn't the prime focus, as the emotions of her failures all piling up made her come to a quick decision. This could really work? Akko asked, as her eyes were beginning to light up with excitement. I've no doubt about it, the hooded figure replied. Why don't you try it on? Offering the ring to the excitable girl, Akko immediately put it through her right index finger, which fit like a charm. She gazed upon the ring and smiled happily, feeling that suited her well. I love it, she exclaimed joyfully. I'll gladly pay for this. I wasn't getting anywhere with browsing for stuff, but I think I finally found something worth the trip. So how much would you take for it? Nothing, the figure said, smiling through her cloak. More so than before, from the house without warning, she took out what seemed to be a wand and positioned it towards Akko in a flash. White swirls headed towards Akko's point of view and passed by her head, freezing the girl on the spot and staring towards the figure. Akko's eyes began to feel heavy and her body weak, as she collapsed down on her knees before landing face first on the floor, now fast asleep. The cloaked girl walked up towards her proudly as her accomplishment, as the ring started to fade away on Akko's finger and leaving behind a glow that covered her body before fading out completely. Out like the light, she said with a cheerful tone. The ring is placed and the amnesia spell should wipe out the memories of our encounter. Glad the magic battery in my wand still had some juice left after all this time. She picked Akko off the floor and carried her out of the empty store. If anyone was watching, which to her luck wasn't the case. She placed Akko on the ground away from the store and headed back in to go through the stock room, where there was a secret panel on the floor that leads to an underground exit. I hope Luna Nova is ready for the antics that'll ensue, the figure said excitedly with a giggle, as she walked. Make me proud, Akko. Show the school what you'll soon be made of. A few minutes later, Akko eventually started to awaken, as her eyes slowly gained vision. A few moments after getting her bearings, she realized she was lying on the ground with drool on her mouth from sleeping. How she wondered, as she picked herself up. What am I doing here? I don't remember stopping for a nap, and not in the middle of the street anyway. She looked around to figure out what was going on, until something important. Oh crap, she cried out loud. Lottie and Susie, how long have I been out like this? I got to get back fast. She darted off in the opposite direction from the cloaked figure's store as quickly as she could reunite with them. If they had already left to return to the school, she'd be without a ride home, and she was not willing to go through waiting for a taxi. It wouldn't take her long to get back though, as from the second she turned the corner to where a nearby bench was, she collided into Lottie, who had been looking around for her. They both fell to the ground and were soon rubbing their foreheads from the impact. I'll watch where you're going, Akko said, not knowing who she'd bumped into yet. I'm not in the mood for getting amnesia. It's me, Lottie said with a groan which shocked Akko immediately. Oh my gosh, Lottie, she cried with worry. I'm so sorry. Are you okay? I'll be alright, she replied, getting back up on her feet thanks to Akko lending her hand to her. At least I found you. You were gone for a while and I was getting worried. Sorry about that, Akko said, feeling bad, but I'm not even sure why I'm this late. What do you mean? It's the weirdest thing. I was on my way back to meet up with you and Susie after realizing the time and I jogged it, but then the next thing I know, I wake up lying on the ground you were. How odd. Are you feeling ill or anything? I don't think so, Akko replied, putting her hand against her forehead. If I were feeling under the weather then I would have known about it. I suppose I have been feeling pretty tired though from how busy school work has been. Classes have been busier than usual this week and you've been training with Professor Ursula, so maybe it's just all caught up with you. Maybe? Akko didn't know what to think at this point. Anyway, we should get back to our dorm. I take it Susie's already gone? Yeah, she got a little impatient. Hopefully, she's not too annoyed now. I just feel bad, Akko sighed with her head down. I'm sure you had the intention of meeting up on time, Lottie said, trying to make her feel a little better. She'll understand with Susie, who knows? I'm sure it'll be fine. Come on then, Akko. I'll get us back. Akko was glad to have a friend like Lottie. She'd get herself and her friends into trouble more times than necessary and sometimes irritate them, but Lottie never gave up on Akko despite all of that. Not a lot of students had the patience to put up with Akko, so Lottie was one of few who could. Hopping onto the back of Lottie's broom, the two flew off back to Luna Nova, feeling hungry on the way. Both were hoping tonight's dinner would be one to fill their stomachs. But throughout the ride home, Akko continued to question to herself deep down what could have caused her to conk out on the street. Weird, Susie said sometime after Akko and Lottie had returned and explained what happened after much apologizing from Akko, to which Susie's response was as deadpan as usual. Considering that you often sleep in class, that doesn't sound too unusual at all. I wouldn't do that out in the street, though, Akko replied. As I said, maybe you're just exhausted from the amount of work we've been doing lately. Followed. If that's the case then just about everybody else should be tired, Susie said. I've been fine. What about you, Lottie? Akko asked, hoping she wasn't alone on this, mentally drained maybe, but not tired at all. But someone else in our classes might have been tired too. They all looked fine to me, Susie said, as she continued to work on her potions at the desk. This is really starting to bother me, Akko whined. Well, the important thing is that you're okay and still here, Lottie said. Perhaps you did just get tired without realizing it. All this thinking is doing that for me. Akko planted her face on her bed pillow, looking grumpy. Why don't we just forget about it for now and go and grab some dinner shortly? Lottie suggested. Perhaps having an early night tonight may help. No arguments here, Susie said, which alerted Akko immediately. What does that mean? She asked with an irritated look on her face. Let's just go and get our dinner now, Lottie said nervously, hoping to avoid any potential arguments. She left the room first, with Akko following behind soon after, looking back at Susie annoyingly. The two would often get into little arguments from time to time, but despite that, they remained friends regardless. Akko drifted off an hour or so after dinner, snoring away within the first 10 minutes of sleep. As she slept, Lottie walked on over to Susie and talked with her quietly. I'm a little concerned about Akko. Maybe it's best we keep an eye on her tomorrow just in case. I don't think there's a lot to worry about, Susie responded. It's probably nothing more than her just snoozing off, but from how she described it, it must have happened in an instant. What if something else happened during the time she was sleeping? To Akko it would be instant, but who knows how long it went on for, and the reasoning for it fine. Susie agreed. It's probably nothing, but I'll keep watch too. Thank you, Susie. Lottie smiled. I just hope she's alright. As the hours passed and all three girls were fast asleep in their beds, faint sounds of jingling could be heard in the room. The source of the noise wasn't in sight yet, but it wouldn't be the only thing to happen as the night continued.